And maybe that connects with hope because there's some unique and diverse views and opinions. I think of Nietzsche and the Stoics railing against hope, and then you have other philosophers and theologians pointing to it as critical. And you talk about in the book that you were a bit suspicious about hope. So what changed, and why are thoughts on hope so diverse?
I think, yeah, ambivalence is sort of ever present around hope. So on the one hand, there's the kind of idea of the audacity of hope, that hope is this thing to be cherished. It's we have to cling to it. But actually, often you think about what people the slogans about hope are things like the Ted Lasso slogan from the episode. It's the hope that kills you. Like hoping is terrifying. If you hope, you risk kind of despair. And there's a line from Greta Thunberg I quote in the book when she something she said to the World Economic Forum in Davos, which was, "I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic," because there's an anxiety that sitting around and just hoping that things will get better is completely idle. It's completely passive. So I had a very strong sense of the negative sides of hope, the sense of passivity and danger, the sense that it sets you up for disappointment. What I came to think was that there's a distinction here that we really need to draw between just the attitude of hoping for something, the mixture of thinking, well, this is possible and I want it, which can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, and by itself is totally passive. It doesn't guarantee you're going to do anything, although it might be a kind of precondition of taking action. And the virtue of hope. So this it's a distinction that goes back to the medieval theologian Aquinas, who contrasts the irascible passion of hope from the theological virtue of hope. I'm trying to sort of think about what a secular version of this might look like. And the thought is, the virtue is really not about, or really the question is not really, is hope good? Is it bad? Should we hope? Should we despair? Those questions are not really the right questions to ask. The question that the virtue of hope tries to answer is, what should I hope for? Where should I direct my hope? And I think understood in that way, the virtue is something we really need and can unequivocally sort of affirm, even as we acknowledge that having answered that question, having figured out what we should realistically hope for in dealing with our loneliness, say, or the injustice of the world, or whatever it might be, hope by itself, we should sort of not forget that that's not the end point. It creates space for action, but I think we have to maintain a kind of acknowledgement of the ways in which hope can seem like it's enough by itself when really it isn't. Its point is just to create space for something else.
Mhm. Would you agree with, say, Nietzsche or the Stoics from that basically kind of narrow perspective that hope maybe is not such a good thing?
I think the problem is that it is, I think, a precondition of action. So I think if you think all it really takes to count as hoping for something is that you think that's possible, it's not guaranteed to happen, and I have some influence over it maybe, but it's not. I can't easily just do it. And then I really want it, and I'm attached to it. I think if that's what hope is, then anytime we strive for something that we really hope to achieve, or well, just that begs the question that we really want to achieve, and we think we might not succeed, we thereby count as hoping for it. So I think there's a way in which it's not, it's sort of a non-negotiable condition of engaging with the world that we have, that we hope to make a difference or hope to make progress or hope to get somewhere. So in that sense, I think just saying hope is negative, just taking a critical attitude to it towards it can't be the end of the story. I think what is right is that hope by itself is not of very much value, and it can substitute for action. So I think if the critique of hope is, look, if you just sit around hoping, and not doing anything, it's not worth anything at all. In fact, it's worse than nothing, because you're sort of kidding yourself that you're on the right side by having, your heart in the right place, but it's just a substitute for action. Then I think it's not good. Or when it involves a kind of wishful thinking, that you hope for things in a way that's detached from what's realistically possible. So that's why I think that the virtue of hope, hoping well, has to sort of discipline hope. It has to bring it into line with reality and into the service of action in a way that it might otherwise not be. So maybe the thing to say is that sort of undisciplined hope, unconstrained in that way, it's a dangerous and possibly negative thing, but it's not, as it were, hopeless. We can sort of utilize hope, and in a way, I think we need to reorient it in order to make space for action. So my view, it remains, even at the end, more qualified, more ambivalent than negative.